Reimagining Success, episode 44. You're listening to Reimagining Success, the podcast where we help you reimagine your future, designing a life and career beyond the 9 to 5 that allows you the freedom, flexibility and fulfillment that you've been dreaming of. I'm your host, Anna Lundberg. Now, let's get started on those dreams. Hey there and welcome back. Now, if you were listening to our episode last week, you'll know that we have opened the One Step Outside the 9 to 5 doors for enrollment. This is the new revamped version of the program as we are speaking now, September 2019. So it's a comprehensive 12-month program to take you from a state of confusion, procrastination, feeling stuck about which direction your career should head in. Do I want to start a business? What business should I start? How on earth do I get this off the ground? Right through a position of clarity and confidence and conviction that you're on the right path. And let's throw in a few more alliterative words there, creating that freedom, flexibility and fulfillment that we're always talking about. So all the details of the program are on onestepoutside.com/9 to 5, and the 9 and the 5 there are numbers. So onestepoutside.com/9 to 5. However, this week I wanted to do a slightly different type of episode, a bit less polished maybe than usual, because I wanted to do a bit of a Q&A. Had quite a few questions coming in the different forums over the last few days, and I thought it would be a good idea to answer some of them here. Of course, if you have any other questions as well, then do email me, podcast@onestepoutside.com. So let's dive straight in. First question I got was, if you're leaving the corporate 9 to 5, which is what we're talking about, of course, and when you're starting out, how much do you recommend saving, putting aside for bills? Is it 3 months pay, 7 months pay, 12 months pay? What's the magic number? And you may have seen a magic number sometimes, and I've certainly heard 3 months before, I've heard 6 months before. A friend of mine actually said, you know what, I think you need 12 months of savings. However, it really depends on a couple of things, and as usual, there isn't really a simple answer. First of all, it depends on your level of spending, your obligations, your family situation, and so on. What discretionary spending can you actually cut down on? So how much is leaking out of your bucket? Because, of course, the more's leaking out, the more you're throwing out of the bucket, the more you'll need in terms of saving. Certainly if you're going to quit and take that leap of faith without building the side hustle alongside your corporate job, you're going to very quickly go from, high 6-figure plus income in your corporate job to nothing at all, unless you have a bit of gardening leave and so on. But, the package will only run out, will only take you so far. So how much do you need in your bucket depends on how much is leaking out, how much you're throwing out. When I say throwing out, the reason I say that is because when I first quit, between my consulting contracts, I was very lucky to land on my feet and had some really big corporate client contracts when I left. However, in between those contracts, I was very much living a pretty amazing life. I was traveling a lot. Between each contract, I'd go to Asia, Australia. I was in Japan. I went to a wedding in New York. I did some fantastic things in California. We went hot air ballooning in Napa, flew over Grand Canyon and so on. As you can hear from what I'm telling you, incredible life experiences, however, also very expensive. And initially I was working as a consultant, but then I actually sort of quit that work and went through what I always call my hippie phase, when I wasn't bringing in a lot of money. And so I was very much working through my savings. So if you're like me and you want to really enjoy that life, that's all well and good. But of course, that means that bucket's going to leak out much more quickly and you are going to need a whole lot more savings. The other side of the coin, of course, is the money coming in. So again, of course, if you have your full-time job still, or a part-time job or a contracting job you can do, that's going to bring in additional income and buffer for you. So it's not just about savings you have, but actually you have revenue coming in, which is much more important and much more effective than just having savings. So rather than just cutting down on your spend, you're actually bringing in money. So it might be that you still have that salary or you're getting the part-time income coming in, Or maybe you're really far along already and you're thinking about your business. You already have a pipeline of clients. You reckon you can really hit the ground running, in which case, you'll start bringing in that money much more quickly than someone who's much earlier on in the process. So not to complicate things for you, but of course there is no easy answer here. It very much depends on your situation. And, if you want to chat to me about that, then you can always get in touch. But again, do consider the two sides of it. So cutting down your spending and saving more on the one hand, but also, of course, ultimately you need to be bringing in money. So that could be through consulting, freelancing. It could be through your existing job. And ultimately you want it, of course, to be through your business. Now, another question, which is not so specifically related to the program, but just a doubt around being self-employed, which I thought was great, which was how do you stay relevant with changes in technology, best practices, the digital space, and so on? And I think that's a really interesting question because, when I was at Procter & Gamble, I worked with high-level agencies. Google, Facebook would all come to us and teach us the best practices. They wanted to partner with us. We did some incredible pioneering things on YouTube and so on, right? So we had access to the best minds, senior directors at these, leaders in the digital space, not to mention all the training and so on that the company, of course, paid for. Now, I think it's great that you're asking this question because if you recognize the importance of getting that training for yourself, then that's already a step in the right direction. And I would definitely recommend that you put aside a portion of your budget as soon as possible, as soon as, again, you bring that money in, or if you can, from your savings, to make sure that you're investing in yourself and staying on top of things. Now, that does include, digital tech and so on in my case, because I'm teaching people about these things. I'm doing digital marketing, consulting and so on. And I must say that I find my training comes from really reading. So whether it's on LinkedIn, Twitter, Google and so on, listening to podcasts, subscribing to newsletters and so on, potentially going to conferences and things, but make sure that you're going to a conference that really does have the elements that you want to find out about. Some of them can be a bit of, quite glossy, but actually don't learn very much realistically. And then, of course, the other piece is, in my case, the work I do by its very nature means I have to stay on top of it. Number one, because I do this marketing, writing and training in the very latest areas of digital disruption and things like artificial intelligence and Internet of Things and smart speaker marketing and so on. So, I'm very much on top of all those latest trends, but also because I run my own business. So I have to, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, stay on top of these things, make sure that I'm learning the latest things. So there's an element of knowledge and skills and that kind of thing. But there's also an element of mentoring, guidance, and of course, coaching. And that's something, again, that I absolutely recommend that you put aside a chunk of money for, that you plan that into your expenses. And that really is a business expense. So I would absolutely always have a coach myself. As a coach, I think that's absolutely critical. And if you're considering coaching, the first thing you absolutely must do is get a coach, both because you need to be coaching yourself, being coached to become the best version of yourself, which is what we're hoping to be ourselves and also help others become. So you can really invest in your own personal development, but also more pragmatically, you want to learn what other people are doing. You can see how they set up their calls, their consulting, discovery calls, their funnels, perhaps their programs, their materials and membership sites and things. And then you can learn how you want to do yours and how you might want to do them differently. So absolutely put aside budget and time for training, coaching, learning. And again, it can be also early days, free materials, but do make sure that you're getting quality input and not just, I guess the free stuff isn't necessarily the best, I suppose I would say. Now, one of you, and I'm not saying the names here in any of them, just to keep everything confidential in case you don't want to share, but I think they're all really important questions and great questions to ask. But one question was, I'm not so comfortable with the online interaction. I really love face-to-face, the in-person, real people, real talk kind of workshop scenario. And although I do offer that one-day workshop now, as some of you will know, I now have a young daughter, and the practicalities of having a one-day workshop isn't necessarily as it was before. However, more than that, I want to reassure you, and I'm sure you will find this when you experience this for yourself, that the online interaction is incredibly rich and effective. It's practical in the sense that you don't have to travel, so you miss the commute. You can listen on your commute. In fact, you can read the materials on the train journey. You can listen to the audios while you're doing the dishes. You can call in over your lunch break and so on, right? So from a practical perspective, it's incredible. And if any of you have been part of the various workshops and challenges I've done in the group, if you have been part of the programs, and in fact, and past clients would say this, there is an incredible energy and dynamic and really productive sense of making progress through even those quick, short workshops that we do for 1 week. And you can imagine then what you can get out of a program where you're interacting with the same group of people, really supporting each other, learning from each other, and working through the membership site at your own pace. So I would definitely recommend trying the online interaction and sampling it, maybe joining one of my free workshops over in the Facebook group, for example, or watching the YouTube videos. And above all, I think, if you're going to be running a business, most of us, even those who are going to be, more traditional brick and mortar businesses, will want to have an online element. So I think getting really comfortable with that, both as an individual, but also as a business person, will be absolutely critical. Speaking of that online interaction, another question came in about how logistically it all works. And if you go back to last week's episode, you'll hear about all the content and the things that are included. However, to give you a bit more detail of the practicalities of it, the 3 key elements of the program are the membership site. So again, the comprehensive 12-month program and therefore 12 modules. There's a new module every month. The membership site is something that you get access to when you join, of course, and you will then be able to dig into audios, videos, and PDF worksheets that are each building on the previous module. You have access to all these materials from the get-go, so you're not going to be drip-fed or anything, so you can dip into the bits that are most important for you. However, I would always recommend, of course, starting with the beginning of reimagining success, looking at that big vision, working through mindset and so on. So the membership site is really the heart of the program. That's where the materials are for you to work through at your own pace. On top of that, however, you have weekly coaching. Now, in the past, we were doing fortnightly. Now you have a weekly hour-long group coaching session where you can turn up. And of course, if you turn up every week, then you'll get very comprehensive, effective, massive leaps forwards from not only working through the materials yourself, but also getting on the phone with me, getting essentially customized, one-on-one, tailored feedback and coaching on the particular situation that you're in and on your version of, when we get to those pieces, the business strategies and so on. So that, of course, is a really important element of it, really getting that live coaching. And that takes place on Uber Conference. It's a conference line where you can log in for free on your computer, or you can dial in the local conference number. And that's all free on the website, or it's a local number for you in your country. And it's audio, and that will then record and we'll upload that to the site afterwards. So if you can't join, you can always listen to the recording as well. And then the final element, for those of you who are active on Facebook, I know some of you aren't anymore or never have been, but Facebook certainly for me is still playing a role in my business. And I think it is the best forum at the moment for having this membership community. So we'll have a private Facebook group there for the members of the program where you can ask your questions between the coaching sessions, get feedback from other members of the group, get feedback from me, and of course I can hop on there and do some extra lives and trainings there as well. A few more questions. So one was around, okay, people seem to be in different stages of the process. How do you handle that? And the only thing I can say is that it has worked, so far. And it is true that some of you might be at the very beginning of the process. You don't yet know what you want to do, and you're going to be really spending more time at that beginning exploratory phase. And then some people perhaps already have a business idea and you're really looking more for the nitty-gritty business and marketing piece. It's still incredibly valuable for everybody to go back to the beginning and look at the vision, spend that time getting clear on who you are, your values, your vision, both for your life and for your business. And even those of you who are at the beginning of the journey will benefit from hearing what those of you who might be a bit more advanced are working on in terms of business and marketing and websites and so on. So I think it really feeds into itself and it really builds on each other, and all of you will really benefit from listening to others. If you can stay for the full hour of coaching, then you can really learn from other people as well. Now, there have been a lot of questions around marketing in terms of, what do you do when you have too many clients? How do you do referrals and Let's see what else, which social media platforms should I be using? How do you outsource and so on? And these are all things that are very much covered in the program. So, as much as I talk around the vision and the mindset and so on, the core business content is absolutely there. And as you may know, my background is in branding and marketing from one of the best really companies in the industry. So Procter & Gamble, really known for almost inventing the brand. They certainly invented the soap opera, in fact, back in the day. So that's where I had my really foundational training in terms of building quality brands. I worked on a range of brands from lower end point of market entry brands right through to high end luxury brands. So really have the range of knowledge there, both from design roles, working on concepts and more the visual side and advertising and creative side, right through to the commercial and operations side, media planning and so on. I now mentor startups and entrepreneurs as well. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I do a lot of writing and training in the latest trends and best practices of digital marketing and business. And of course, I have my own business. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of where I'm coming from in terms of my knowledge, both from the big brand, big budget, big corporation side of things, right down to the small startup entrepreneur, solopreneur side as well. In terms of the business content, just to mention that as well in the program, we really get into in the second portion of the program. So the first portion is really around exploring your options, narrowing down, filtering and making a decision. The second part is really where you're going to grab your business idea and run with it. So we'll be looking at understanding your client, choosing the right business model, building your brand and really making it work for you. So things like the value proposition canvas, the wants, fears and needs of your customers, the benefits, the results you're providing with your products and services. The business model canvas. And by the way, I have my own versions of these. So these are phrases you may have come across. There are various versions of these out there on the internet, and I've tweaked those with my experience from P&G and my own experience with solopreneurs as well to make it more relevant to us. So everything from the customer, the problem you're solving, your solution and why you're credible in delivering that solution, the exact pyramid of services you're going to be offering from the free attraction marketing kind of services right up to the pinnacle, the VIP, the high level, perhaps one-on-one coaching, let's say in your case. Marketing, how you're going to reach your audience, how you're going to attract those people and what you need to invest in, the support you need and so on. Content strategy, one of my favorite things from P&G. Again, I really headed up a pioneering piece of work really with the media agencies, with YouTube, with Google on defining the content strategy. Content really sits at the sweet spot between what your audience, what your clients, what your customers, what your ideal people that you're going to be working with are looking for, what they want to know, what they need to know on the one hand, but also then the other side of the coin is what your brand stands for, and the sweet spot between those two is really where you're going to choose the themes you want to talk about, the formats, the types of content, and then choosing the right channels. And then finally, we'll also look at the latest trends. So if you are interested in innovating and staying in touch with the latest, we are going to be covering that, whether it's things like video is really big at the moment, again, at the time of recording, micro content, so things like stories and little pieces of text and posts and short form, as well as audio, smart speaker marketing. And we'll even get into the detail of helping you with your LinkedIn profile, setting up your Facebook page, Instagram accounts, and so on. So very comprehensive, very solid foundations of business, getting up to speed, getting your business off the ground right from the very beginning. And the final question I'll close with is, would you ever go back to corporate consulting contracting? And I think that's a great question. And I have to say, I cannot imagine ever going back to corporate. I know a lot of people who did go back, and I think perhaps for the wrong reasons, or perhaps they left for the wrong reasons. They were very naive in thinking that their business idea was, the next Uber, Airbnb, whatever, and were very disappointed when it was much harder than they realised and it didn't go so well. Or perhaps they missed the team, the social side of work. They missed the accountability, the support from senior bosses and so on. And I think in that scenario, actually, it's very possible to set up, and I believe that, and I think we should do that, set up a business that's going to work for us in terms of having the social side. You can create a team if you want to have a team. You can go to a co-working space if you miss that social side of things. There are ways in which you can set up your business. You can have a co-founder, for example. So really making sure you're designing the business to work for you is what's going to make it sustainable. And in my case, that's what I'm doing. It is evolving with time. I am reimagining success for myself personally and in the business as we go. And that does change, over time. But absolutely, I couldn't imagine at the moment, never say never, but right now I can't imagine going back to sort of the Monday to Friday, so-called 9 to 5, which of course never is 9 to 5, traveling, commuting into an office. I always feel a bit of a freak when I'm in the city. I remember even years ago when I travelled in for a meeting, which I try to avoid as much as possible, I must admit, but I was going against the tide. I think I was wearing a bright blue coat, as I remember. Everyone else was wearing black and grey. They were all heads down, looking at their phones, looking miserable, and I was sort of humming along, a little bit sad that I had to be there in the city and at that time of day in the rush hour, but much more radiant, I'd say, and very much standing out in a field, in a pool, in a whatever you want to call it, of black and grey, and that corporate conveyor belt going in one direction. So no, I don't think I'd ever go back. I love what I'm doing, and I really believe that you can too. So I think I'll leave it there. I think I've actually talked for longer than I usually do because there were so many questions that I wanted to cover. If there are any questions I haven't covered, if you have anything at all based on what I shared last week, or having a look at the sales page, again, onestepoutside.com/9to5 has all the details of the program, then do let me know. You can get in touch at podcast@onestepoutside.com, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have and make sure that you're making the right decision for you at this moment in time. So I'd love to work with you. I would love to take this step with you and follow along, support you through your journey. And I can't wait to get started. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now. Are you dreaming of escaping a corporate 9 to 5 job that leaves you feeling unfulfilled and stuck? Trying to figure out what you actually want to do and find your way back to your real interests and passions, longing to create something that matters and that really makes an impact. The One Step Outside the 9 to 5 program is your roadmap to creating a meaningful business that will bring you more freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment outside of that 9 to 5. You can learn more, grab your spot, or get on the waiting list at onestepoutside.com/9to5. That's 9TO5. I'd love to help you through this transition out of the 9 to 5 and towards a new vision of your future. So sign up at onestepoutside.com/9to5.